Today we're going to talk about the sensory side to autism. So I've worked as a therapist with children in the autistic spectrum for many, many years, for 15 years actually, but only when I moved into the adult world and I had the opportunity to engage with adults with ASD, autism spectrum disorder. It was such a new world that opened up for me. And I think I want to give a bit of credit to Thomas McKean. He wrote the book, Soon Will Come the Light. It's a very, very old book. I think the first publication was 94, and then there was a reprint after that. But Thomas really explains how the person with ASD experienced their world heavily sensory overloaded. Lights are brighter, sounds are sharper and harder. Touch on their skin actually create painful experiences. Smells are revolting to them. Taste could be really repulsive and really bad for them. And even their movement and space in their body can be disorientating and disruptive. So if we talk sensory overload, in the ASD world, this is very, very real and very, very relevant. And it's really important for someone on the ASD spectrum to understand what are their thresholds like. For each of these sensory systems, is noise or sound the culprit, or is it touch, or it might be all of them. But then understanding that and working through a level of anticipation and avoiding. Is there certain activities that I should avoid just to not go into that sensory overload, or do I need to anticipate what's going to happen to my body? And then the key thing is, how do we self-regulate? And self-regulate is, how can I control the overload in my environment? How can I use my body and my brain to curb the irritation and the disruption that sensory overload often causes? So that's the key thing here. Are the person on the ASD spectrum or people on the ASD spectrum, are they aware what's been going on with their bodies, and do they understand these sensory connections? That's very, very important, because with this insight and understanding, it's really about implementing the right environment and the right strategies to reduce sensory overload as it happens, and obviously to avoid it happening in the first place. I want to share something interesting with you. I had a Zoom interview with a potential provider last week who divulged on the call later on that she was on the ASD spectrum. And I found that fascinating, because as we got onto the call, her part of her screen and her environment was very dark, and there was an absolute bland wall. And I was like, the bland wall I can get, but I was like, switch the light on. But when she divulged the fact that she's on the ASD spectrum, I immediately made the connection, because by switching off the lights and being in a darker environment often helps the brain to not having to navigate so much visual stimulation. So darkness has a capacity to calm the brain. And the other thing that happened that was interesting, when we went into more difficult conversations, she started to rock in her chair. It was a gentle rocking, and gentle rocking is using the movement system to self-regulate, which is cool. It's absolutely fine. So it was just fascinating for me to put those pieces together. Sensory ergonomics, how she was changing her environment to fit into the reduction of sensory overload, and the rocking is using self-regulation through the movement system to stay on the call and to actually provide us with great feedback. So the autism world is fascinating, and I think the one place where sensory make so much sense and can be such a lifesaver. So if you are on the ASD spectrum, or you know someone who's on the ASD spectrum and would like to help them, or want to just improve the quality of your life, sensory intelligence is really a great way to make life easier, reduce that overload, to know what to do, when to do it, and why you should be doing that. That's all for today, folks. We hope you have a great day further, and take care. Cheers.